Egelandsdal had already lost the most precious thing in her life, her son. But her suffering was far from over. What began as a mother's fight to reclaim her child soon turned into a battle against debt, imprisonment, and fear. As powerful institutions moved against her, one question remained: how much must an ordinary person pay for seeking justice? This is part 8 of The Price for Justice in My Motherland, The Cost of Challenging Power. Weeks after the Court of Appeal dismissed Egelandsdal's attempt to reclaim her son Dick, a new and unexpected battle began. Instead of finding peace after losing the case, she received court documents demanding payment for the legal costs incurred by the state in defending the adoption case. Confused and frightened, Egelandsdal visited her lawyer and asked what the documents meant. The lawyer explained that when a person loses a court case, the court may order them to pay the legal costs of the winning party. Failure to pay could lead to the attachment of property, frozen bank accounts, and even civil imprisonment. The news shocked her. She had already lost her son, and now she faced financial ruin. Nevertheless, she agreed to continue the legal process and paid additional fees so her lawyer could represent her during the taxation proceedings, where the amount payable would be determined. When the taxation hearing finally arrived, Egelandsdal and her lawyer entered the courtroom and found themselves facing an intimidating sight. 19 state councils appeared together on behalf of the government. Their presence alone seemed designed to demonstrate the power of the state. One state council after another presented claims for legal fees, transport expenses, consultations, filing costs, allowances, preparation charges, and various professional fees. The amount continued to grow as each item was read into the record. When it was his turn to respond, Egelandsdal's lawyer argued that the bill of costs was excessive and unreasonable. He pointed out that 19 state councils had appeared in a case that did not require such a large legal team, and argued that the government was unfairly inflating the amount claimed against his client. However, throughout the proceedings, the taxing master appeared uninterested in the defense arguments. No questions were asked, no concerns were raised. The hearing concluded and a ruling date was scheduled. When the ruling day arrived, the courtroom was once again filled with state councils. The taxing master dismissed Egelandsdal's objections and awarded the state the full amount requested, 62 million ngananas. The figure left Egelandsdal stunned. She could hardly believe what she had heard. After losing her son in court, she was now being ordered to pay an amount far greater than anything she could afford. As the courtroom emptied, she sat motionless and quietly asked a question that no one answered. So nobody can truly win a case against the state, even where justice is obvious? Her suffering, however, was only beginning. A few weeks later, the state filed an application to enforce the costs award. Once again, Egelandsdal appeared before the court. The government lawyers requested immediate execution of the judgment. Her lawyer attempted to argue that the taxation process had been unfair and that their concerns had never been properly considered. But the judge immediately stopped him. The court, he said, was not there to review the taxation proceedings. Its role was only to determine whether the costs award should be enforced. Moments later, the judge granted execution and authorized a court broker to recover the money according to law. The execution process moved with remarkable speed. Soon afterward, a court broker visited Egelandsdal's lawyer and explained that he had been instructed to recover the amount owed. By then, Egelandsdal was fully aware of the fate that awaited her should she fail to pay the amount demanded by the court. She had no way of paying such a large debt. Her bank account was frozen immediately. Everything inside it, 9 million Nangananas, was seized toward the debt, but even that was not enough. Next came her property. A government valuer arrived to inspect the 2 shop rooms she had inherited from her father's estate. The purpose was clear. The properties would be attached and sold to recover the remaining amount. By coincidence, her sister Gianna was visiting when the valuer arrived. The news infuriated her. She reminded everyone present that, years earlier, their own parents had been unable to enforce a court judgment against the local council because government property could not easily be attached. Their family had suffered for years because of that legal protection. She thought that the attachment of Egelandsdal's property could only be executed through the president intervention, as was the case of the local council's property. Now, however, ordinary citizens were suddenly facing attachment without difficulty. Gianna openly questioned the contradiction.
If the law protected government property from attachment, why was it so quick to seize the property of ordinary people? Was there one law for the powerful and another for the poor?
The valuer could only reply that he was not a lawyer and was simply carrying out his duties. But the question remained unanswered. For Egelandsdal, the contradiction was painful. Slowly, she realized that if the law had worked equally for everyone, her parents might never have endured the suffering that ultimately destroyed their family. Days later, the court broker returned with even worse news. After freezing the bank account and valuing the shop rooms both at 40 million Giannas, there was still a shortfall of 13 million Giannas. The debt had not been cleared. Unless the remaining amount was paid within 14 days, the broker would advise the state to pursue 1-month civil imprisonment against the decreed debtor. Egelandsdal felt trapped. She asked her lawyer what options remained. The lawyer suggested speaking with her siblings. A family meeting was quickly arranged at Mavea's house. The brothers and sisters gathered together and discussed the situation late into the evening. Again, Gianna questioned the fairness of the legal system. She could not understand how attachment had suddenly become available against ordinary citizens, when their parents had been denied similar enforcement mechanisms against the government. Yet none of them truly understood the law anymore. What they understood was suffering. Rochnoi proposed contributing money together to help their sister. Unfortunately, the amount was simply too large. After a long silence, Gianna reminded the family how years earlier they had failed to raise even 10,000 Giannas to save their grandmother's life. If they could not raise such a small amount then, how could they possibly raise millions now? The room fell silent. Finally, Mavea spoke.
Sister, I have experienced prison before. Since this imprisonment is only for 1 month based on the amount being claimed, I advise you to face it bravely. We will visit you regularly, and when you are released, we will help you start your life again.
The siblings promised that they would stand by Egelandsdal throughout her imprisonment, visiting her regularly and offering emotional support during the difficult period. They also agreed that once she was released, they would contribute whatever they could to help her rebuild her life and start anew. Egelandsdal accepted her fate, yet one sentence continued to echo endlessly in her mind. You want to challenge the president in court? You will see hell. 14 days later, the warning seemed to become reality. A state council arrived with a police officer carrying an arrest warrant. Egelandsdal was arrested and transported to a prison located nearly 25 miles away. She was sentenced to 1 month imprisonment. Life in prison proved devastating. Her siblings visited whenever they could. Each visit was painful. They watched her lose weight rapidly and become increasingly weak. Still, they encouraged her and counted down the days until her release. Eventually, the expected release date arrived. All of her siblings traveled to the prison and waited outside the gates. Hours passed. Other prisoners were released, but Egelandsdal never appeared. Confused, the family approached prison officials and asked for information. To their astonishment, the officers claimed they knew nothing about any civil prisoner by that name. The family searched for answers. None came. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Egelandsdal never returned home. Fear began consuming the family. The idea of conducting deeper investigations became terrifying. If Egelandsdal could disappear, perhaps others could disappear too. Gradually, her disappearance became a source of fear throughout the community. People spoke about the tragedy in whispers. The story of Pandam Malalahoy's family transformed from a legal struggle into a warning. Parents began teaching their children new lessons. Do not fight powerful people. Do not challenge the government. Accept your suffering quietly. The public had watched an entire family lose everything while seeking justice through lawful institutions. They had lost their property, they had lost parents, they had lost dignity, they had lost freedom, they had lost children, and now they had lost Egelandsdal. As fear spread, society slowly changed. People stopped reporting abuses. People stopped demanding accountability. Many became afraid to pursue their rights. Silence became safer than resistance. A society of fear emerged, a society where survival became more important than justice, and where obedience became more valuable than truth. Meanwhile, the story of Pandam Malalahoy's family faded into dusty court archives and forgotten files. Yet one final question continued to echo throughout the community. What happens to a nation when ordinary people lose faith in justice itself? And thus the story ended, not merely as the tragedy of one family, but as a warning about the consequences of delayed justice, unequal power, fear, and silence. The injustice suffered by Pandam Malalahoy's family left wounds that extended far beyond the courtroom. It denied his children educational opportunities, contributed to multiple deaths within the family, separated loved ones, and robbed them of years that could have been spent building better lives. The endless struggle consumed productive time, created constant uncertainty, and spread fear not only among family members, but throughout the wider community. What began as a dispute over property ultimately became a tragedy that affected generations, leaving behind pain, loss, and unanswered questions about the truth of justice, both done and delayed. In the end, the greatest loss was not property or money, but the destruction of lives, dreams, and faith in justice itself.
Respect the law, defend justice, protect families.
Enjoyed this story? Please like, subscribe, share, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our latest uploads and upcoming story series. Thank you for your support.